friends, welcome to another Myrtleville Monday of our Culture Month. Today we're going to be doing some natural dyeing again. We've got some different materials than we had last time. We're going to try a bit darker coloring this time. We've got some walnuts on the stove, some black walnuts. We've got some Concord grapes over here, and we've got some sumac berries over here. Now in this pot we're going to be washing our wool, but first we need to wind it. So we're going to show you how to do that kind of the old-fashioned settler way. So I've got my tool here. This is called a niddy noddy. Alright, and this is what the settlers would have used before, kind of automatic wool winders to make their skeins. So all you need to do is kind of get your wool there, grasp it in the middle, and then in a kind of figure 8 shape, wind it around like so. And now the really clever thing about this is each turn that you do is a certain measurement. Now a yard, if you want looking for a yard, is 36 inches. So this would be, half a yard would be 18 inches. So you think that this would be 18 inches long, and that way every time you wind it around it's a whole yard. Alright, so eventually you can wind it around, say 50 times, and you'll get 50 yards. And we're left with one of our skeins here. Alright, so that's our skein of yarn. It's a bit longer than a yard. Our niddy noddy is a bit longer than a yard, but that's okay. It's probably a meter. And we've tied it off at intervals. Alright, so this is going to kind of keep it together while it's in the wash pot. We've got a pot of hot water here with a tiny bit of pH neutral soap. So I've talked about this before. We need our kind of neutral soap. You usually know is the clear stuff. So I get the clear stuff from the grocery store, and that's what we use for that. So I'm going to drop a bunch of skeins in here, wash them for about half an hour to an hour depending on how long you want it, and then we're going to rinse them off and put another pot on the stove with our alum mordant powder. So we're back in the kitchen now. It's been about 2 hours since we put the yarn on to be washed. We've since switched it out into the alum powder and cream of tartar bath. So that's setting now. That's basically our mordant that helps the yarn and the dye kind of mold together. We're now just going to do a quick dip test. We've got some paper towels here, fold it up. We're just going to dip it into each dye bath and see what kind of color we get out of it. So this is the walnuts first. Wow, okay. So you can see right away we get a very, very dark brown. That's exactly what we're looking for, so that's a good indicator that that dye bath is almost ready. All right, we'll set that to dry. All right, next one is the grapes. So we're going to dip that in the grapes. Awesome. All right, so we've got a nice like wine-colored red. That's a good color. So you can tell we're definitely going for darker colors this time around. Last time was a lot of goldenrods and bright colors. Now we're going for the darkers. And last but not least, we got the sumac. All right, so a little bit paler, but still kind of a reddy, brownish red color. So you can see the difference there between that and the grapes. So that should be some good coloring once it's all ready to go. We'll just wait for the alum to be ready. That should be another half hour or so, and then we'll strain out all the materials out of the dye baths and get the yarn into them. So it's been about 2 hours or 3 hours since we last put our dye pots on. Our yarn is ready to go, so it's been sitting in the alum and cream of tartar sauce or stuff for about an hour. We're just going to strain this now. So I've got a big strainer in the sink. I'm just going to pour it all in. There we go. Alright, now we're just going to give our yarn a quick rinse just to get any residue from the alum off it, and then one at a time we're going to dip them into our dye pots and hopefully get as good a result as we got with our tester strips. I'm just going to quickly rinse those off. Alright, so I'm going to stick our first one into the sumac at the back here. Just kind of swirl it around so the whole thing gets covered. I'll lift it up a bit. So that's the color we've got immediately, right away. Hopefully that kind of stays, that kind of pinkish, reddish brown color. We'll let that soak for a bit. We're going to keep it on a low simmer, around 1 or 2 on the stove, just for like an hour or 2, and then turn it off and let it cool overnight. Alright? Alright, this one is going into our walnut bath. So the dark one. You can see right away, yeah. So we've got a nice kind of slate gray immediately. Now this one we did add some iron mordant to it, just to make it a bit darker, because we have dyed with walnuts before and got a nice kind of chestnut brown. So we're hoping to get a black this time with the added iron mordant. So that looks like it's coming along very nicely. Alright. And our last one, this one is going to go into our cherries, or sorry, our grapes. At the back here, we're hoping for a nice kind of wine colored red. We did add a bit of wood ash solution. So the iron mordant makes it a bit more acidic, and the wood ash solution makes it a bit more basic on the pH scale. So you can see we still got that wine red, a bit darker red than the sumac. So hopefully we get that at the end of the result as well. Now our water here at Myrtleville is a bit acidic as well, so that could change the color of the yarn once we've washed it at the end. So we're thinking it might turn a bit more bluish, but we'll see what happens at the end. Alright, so we'll let these sit for a while, and we'll see you tomorrow once we've cooled them off. Morning everyone, so we're back with our dyeing experiments. We've got our 3 dyes that have been cooled off now overnight. We're going to start by draining the sumac one into the strainer and then giving it a wash, and then we'll do the other 2 and we'll show you the results once we're done. So just to start off, normally we don't get the same color we do once we pull it out of the pot. So we've got this nice kind of reddy brown color. Once we give it a wash, it's probably going to fade a little bit, and that's okay. Just going to squeeze out as much as we can here and pop it into the colander. You use a tiny bit of soap just to give it a good wash, get any extra dye off of it, and give it a little rinse off. So it's okay, you don't have to worry about any dye that's coming off when you're washing it. That's just the extra dye that didn't stick to the wool. So the faster you get that off, the better it is for the wool, because otherwise it'll just kind of come off if you ever wash it yourself in the washing machine. So just all you have to do is kind of rinse it until you don't see any more color coming off in the water when you squeeze it out. So. It looks like it's keeping most of its color, which is pretty good. Alright, so that's our wet color there. We're going to let it dry. I'm going to hang it up in the other room to drip dry. And then we'll see what the final color is once that's done. And then we'll come back and do the other 2. So we've got the black walnuts now. We've added, like I said, the bit of the iron mordant to this, so that to make it a little bit darker. And it has gone really dark. Almost got a black yarn here, it looks like. So we'll see what happens with that once we rinse it out. Yeah, looks like we're going to get a very dark brown. That's good. Pop it in there. A little soap. cleaned out. Yeah, and we've ended up with quite a nice kind of dark brown. We'll see what that dries as. We'll hang that up to dry outside as we're in the other room as well. Alright, so our last one is just the Concord Grapes one, and we've got a nice deep purple kind of color to start with. Yeah, let's see right away. I think we're going to lose a little bit of the color, but that's okay. That's a nice dark color. So. Alright, so we definitely had a bit of a color change with this one. Looks like it's kind of turning a slight bluish tinge to the purple, which is fine. We're going to hang this up to dry and see if it changes colors even more while it's drying. Alright, so we've got our previously dyed wools here in front of us. So these are all wools that have been naturally dyed with things found around this area. Most of the stuff has been kind of foraged. A couple of them have been store-bought, like the black beans and the red cabbage, but other than that, everything kind of has been foraged. But we do have one kind of surprise dye that we did do earlier, which is our first kind of imported dye. So we imported some logwood powder, which is from Haiti, so the Caribbean, and the pioneers would have been able to get this as well. They would have had the ability to kind of import sugar, so obviously they could import other things from the Caribbean as well. So logwood we thought would give us kind of a reddish tinge, and it actually gave us this amazing deep purple color. So you can see compared to like other purples and kind of blues that we got, it's much more vibrant in color. So we're really happy with that one, and we're hoping we can try and import one more style of dye, which is the cochineal beetle, which comes from South America. So we're hoping maybe we can get that. It's very expensive nowadays, but it gives us a very bright, vibrant red color. So we're going to try that maybe later, but for now this is our kind of surprise dye, and then we're going to show you our the other dyes that we dyed earlier today. Our last dyes for the day, and they've dried and they're ready to go, so we're just going to show you quickly what our final result was. So remember, we had our sumac, our walnuts, and our Concord grapes. So we've got our sumac here first. You can see we kind of got like a peachy pink color, so a lot of the color washed out in that final bath, but that's okay. The peachy color is nice, kind of offsets this the cherry one over here. So it's not bad. Alright, our next one was the walnuts dye with the iron mordant. So this one, we were hoping for kind of a blackish dark brown. We definitely got kind of a grayish brown, I would say. So it's a lot less rich than the original walnut that we did, but that's okay. There's some variants in there still, I think, going around. So it's not bad. And then our final one was the Concord grapes, which is this one here. So we've got a nice kind of soft purple. The water that we washed it in probably has a lot of chemicals in it, so it kind of turned it a little bit bluey compared to what it started out as. You can see a little bit of blue kind of tinge in there. So, but still a nice color. I really like that color. So there you go. There's our final dye experiment of the day. Hopefully we'll be able to do another example one of the cochineal beetles that they make the bright vibrant red, and it'll be kind of like the logwood over here. Other than that, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.